I am Robert Tansley, and in about 6 weeks I will be 67. Who we are is a moving target from the moment we're born. Change is the rule, it's not the exception. You're constantly changing. So, like, who I am at 67 is not who I was at 47, certainly not who I was at 37 and 27. And I think it's part of good aging to know that yourself is changing over time. And if you don't design it yourself and build it yourself and do it yourself, you'll end up with challenges. Where we're falling short as a community in dealing with our aging, I was at a seminar about elder care, and it was a gentleman from Pakistan. And he said to us, "Do you know how much money we spend on elder care?" He said, "Zero. We would never put our elders anywhere other than home. We have 3 generations in almost every home that we have. We don't need facilities. We don't need that kind of care. So we don't spend any money on it." And I think, somehow in North America, we've lost generational families and got this idea that the elderly need to be put somewhere or dealt in some way that is less than just active family care and provision of, things. Does aging come with an aspect of fear? Yes. I think it's archetypal. I think it's fundamental to fear death, to wonder about death, fearing loss of functioning, deterioration, needing care, needing support. It creates a lot of fear because we're raised to be fiercely independent in our culture, to be self-reliant. And when we start to think, I would need help, you get scared. What would make the aging process easier? I think more media coverage of the aging process so that you can see it, witness it, participate in it. There's not a lot that gets displayed about natural, graceful aging. It's not a sexy, exciting topic. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that it's uniform, that there's sort of a trajectory that you can't alter or avoid, and it's just going to sort of happen to you. I don't think that's accurate at all. I think you carry a sense of personal agency and power throughout your life, and you can make a decision to do something different at any moment. I know my own father worked at the same place for 45 years and then retired and literally walked away and sat in a lawn chair. And I don't see that happening for myself. I just can't do that. I think some people, that generation, had that vision of you sign up somewhere, you get a pension, and then you work until you retire, and then you live off that pension, and those are your golden years. But, my dad was dead by 75. So, it wasn't that golden. Retired and almost immediately got sick. And it was like that caused his illness, was disengagement from the routine and the effort and the psychological focus of working. It blew his brain up. What's something I liked about myself as a child that carries on today? Creativity. I think I was always making things, building things, creating things. And, it's been fundamental throughout my lifespan that I know I'm at my happiest when I am making something new, which is what creation means, is to make something that previously did not exist. And so I've done that and been through, phases. Like I did photography for a while. I did stand-up comedy for a while. I've been doing acting. The psychotherapy has kind of been foundational throughout the whole thing. But anytime I'm doing something that I know is challenging and creative, I know I'm being me. What's a song that makes me happy, that has stayed with me? Well, as long as it's not Michael Bublé. Um, I grew up 60s and 70s, so hard rock is kind of what's embedded in my brain in terms of music. So anytime I'm listening to like ZZ Top or AC/DC or Black Sabbath or something like that, I know, that's sort of the music I grew up in. But I also know about myself that I'm not musical. I've tried, well, all four of my kids went to music lessons. I would go with them. And, within a month, they're playing songs, whether it was the piano or the guitar. And I'm still going like D chord, G chord. Like I'm not wired to do it. So I know that's not, a strength in terms of in myself. But I enjoy listening to music. But I know, when I turn the volume up, I know it's because it's 70s rock and roll. What I love about aging is wisdom. I love, acting as a consultant. We've raised 4 kids and launched them all into the world. They all have university degrees, they all have careers, are all on a wonderful path, a trajectory. To not mess that up, we've deliberately positioned ourselves as consultants. We answer questions. We stop saying should and shouldn't. You shouldn't buy that house, you should buy a new car. Like, we stopped all that and we just offer our thoughts and then let them do, make their choices and do what they're going to do and get out of the way. But I love that wisdom that if I am asked a question, I could probably give a pretty good answer. What I don't like about aging is I ask my body to do things and it basically says no. It's uncooperative. I grew up being a violent athlete, playing lacrosse and hockey and football, and now I golf. And I golf because when I golf, no one's trying to hit me, and the ball doesn't move; it just stays there, and I can hit it. So I don't like that, but I accept it. That's in terms of my athletic prowess, it now exists in a very different place than it did all those years ago, and I don't resent it. But I know it is part of the aging thing that's certainly changed for me as my body's not cooperative anymore. A significant moment in my memory I can go back to when I need comfort. There are a lot. It's hard to choose one. Given we're here about aging, I really value the time that I had with my aging parents as they approached death. When you're a psychotherapist and you take the psychotherapy training, you learn this thing from a guy named Erickson called the 8 stages of man. A little gender biased view, but man. And the final stage that he wrote about was integrity versus despair. And so his thought was, as we age, there's a pressure that you either integrate yourself, like come to terms with all of yourselves and all the things that you did in your lifespan, or you become depressed, the despair. And so when I was with my parents as they were failing, had some of the most wonderful conversations about their perspective on things and life and challenges and differences. And I really cherish those moments. And they taught me so much about courage and acceptance and, their generation and the challenges that they experienced. I sat with my dad when he was in the hospital and, he's being eaten by cancer. And they said, all we can do is make him comfortable. So that meant morphine. And it unlocked something in his brain I'd never seen before. And he started telling stories about the war and what was going on for him in the war and things that he learned about himself in the war. And I wouldn't give that up for anything. A fear I've overcome with age and a new fear that has emerged. I have no fear of death. I was dead in 2018. I had been identified as having some blood pressure problems and went through the stress tests and the ultrasounds and all that sort of stuff. And the doctor said, it's 50-50 whether or not you should have an angiogram. And I said, well, I'll sign up. And so that morning, my wife and I were out golfing, and I thought, I feel good. I'm going to blow this off. Like, I don't have any symptoms. I don't have any chest pain, don't have any shortness of breath. I don't have any predisposing factors. So I'm not going to go. And she said, you're going. So went, and I'm in the chair, and the doctor's saying, okay, like, you're going to be awake for this. We're going to put a camera up your leg to your heart, and you're going to see your heart on a monitor. And we're probably going to install a stent because you got this blood pressure thing going on. So I'm laying there and I can feel this cold sensation, and then I see my heart in the camera, and all of a sudden the doctor says, put him out, put him out, put him out. And I thought, that's not in the brochure. What's going on here? And so I wake up like 24 hours later, and he said, you were hours away from being dead. You had 98% blockage in 6 arteries around your heart. He said, I don't know how you were walking around. And so he said, yeah, we're going to do what's called a cabbage 6. We're going to replace 6 arteries around your heart, and you're going back in there, and we're going to do that. So they go in, do that, come out, put me in the recovery room. I bled out. So back in, cut me open again, add a few more stitches, come out, and he says, I'm sorry, but I missed some stitches and you internally bled until you were dead. And I'm like, okay, I know what that is now, and I don't fear it. I don't fear it at all. I accept it. It's, I've already done it once. It wasn't that bad. Do I have any new fears? I fear for my grandchildren and the world they're being left, from a climate perspective, from an AI perspective, from a job perspective, from an opportunity perspective. I think the changes that they're going to confront are going to overwhelm anything that I would have had to adapt to or manage my way through. So that scares me. What am I looking forward to in my future? There's a movie that seems to come on the TV quite a bit, Shawshank Redemption. And there's a line in that movie that says, get busy living or get busy dying. And I'm still living, like I'm doing new things. I'm writing my 4th book. I've started this little acting career. I'm not going to sit in a lawn chair. Just not going to be me. So I love challenging myself. I love doing new things. As long as it's creative, it's who I am. And so it's going to carry on. And I just don't see the exit door of, how I'm going to shut it all down at some point. I don't feel it. What would I say to my 25-year-old self about aging? I would say pay attention. You learn so much by paying attention, and especially in the area of aging, because it's such a difficult topic to openly discuss. But if you pay attention to those around you that are aging and, participate in their experience, because I know, like when I'm in the hospital with my father and he's dying, and I'm sort of, I'm doing the psychotherapy thing, and I'm sort of saying, okay, what are the last things you want to tell me? Like, what lessons did I miss? What do I need to know? And being the sarcastic son of a gun he was, he says, okay, son, there's 3 rules about aging. One is never walk past a bathroom, never trust a fart, and never waste an erection. Thanks, Dad. Words to live by. I think that question begins when you're about 11 years old, where you've got to understand that the self is something that you build, that you have personal agency over. It's not something that's done to you. Until you're about that age, a lot of it is outside in. Somebody will say, you're good at math, and somebody will say, you're a really good hockey player, and it is outside in because you don't have the internal cognitive powers and strategies to sort of say, these are my gifts. And so I think as we age, building a self is like a constant ongoing challenge. And you got to check in on yourself every once in a while and redefine it and adjust it and keep it. Because the part about accepting it is that there are things that you're going to lose, but there are also things you're going to gain. And you need to do that emotional homework with yourself to say, who am I and who am I not? Constantly, so that you can really have that strong sense of self, because that's your resiliency, that's your shield. When someone comes along and says something negative to you, you should be able to pretty quickly say, no, I know that's not me. I know who I am, and it's not what you just said.